And then the cell phone pager services on the next page, 6, is just the amount needed to complete that contract. We were just a little shy in what we had versus what we're contracted. And then in-house service agreement, and that's basically just an increase in percentage from what we expect our in-house system to cost. And that's pretty much it.
Any questions for Mike? Seeing none. Fire. Salaries, but other than that, Mike or Nate, anything you want to point out?
We did increase our overtime. We had, with not being full staffed and having a member on an 18-month military deployment, as well as when we switched over to carrying over 120 from 240 hours, there's a lot of cash out in that, and it's costing a lot of overtime for those individuals that can't keep that number over. They have to cash it out or use it. We don't have the personnel to take off, so they can't burn that time as in just using it or taking a day off and burning it, so they have to cash it out, which has created a burden over the past year and a half. We're at about, and Amy probably got more accurate numbers, I think we're at about 32 to 33,000 of the 35,000 that we've spent already this year, and we still have a few months to go. We did add, increased our fuel line item. We grossly underestimated that, along with probably everybody else. We did see an increase in our physicals. That was basically, that's passed on from the company that does it to us. So making sure that those are adjusted. Those are our yearly physicals that, plus our per physicals for new hires. So that's our blood work, and that's for some of our younger guys, it's the only doctor they see any year. They don't have a family doctor. You'll ask them who it is, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't go to the doctor." So this to them is at least an intro into getting some borderline stuff for prostate cancer and heart and health screenings as well. And then adding a drone incentive and then the wellness incentive. The wellness incentive is a program that you guys approved for police and fire that gives a incentive for those that score high on their fitness exams that we do in-house as part of our performance evaluations, and then that money is just given to those. We did not have a line item for that because it was in that trial run. We took it out of our existing budget. This year we've added that to the budget, and then reimbursing members that are on or incentivizing our members that are on the drone team. We've been growing our drone program with the number of individuals that are doing that. We have numerous flights under our belt now for missing persons, as well as assisting law enforcement, both county and city. So that resource is being used countywide to look for missing persons, to document scenes, document evidence, or look for lost or missing persons in our vehicles as well. So those individuals have taken that upon themselves, or being called in off duty to do that, so that would help offset some of those costs there.
How many people have that right now?
So we're only going to, so we have about 8 interested members and that are on what we would call the drone team, but only about 4 of those. And again, I want to put a caveat if I don't have exact numbers, but we are only reimbursing those that are Flight 107 or FAA 107 certified drone pilots. So this is a certification from the FAA, even though we have a waiver from the FAA saying we don't have to have that. It works out better in our behalf to have that. So it's only those members that are, to encourage them to get their Part 107, this would only be given to those members, and currently that's Corey, Kyle Munson.
I think it's 4.
4. That's what I'm counting.
So what's it take to get that certification?
So that is it's an online study class, and then it's a $175 test, and I don't know how long the test is. The test is given at Greenwood Airport. It's somewhat of a process. I think Wade Farr could probably speak to it. He's in the process of getting his 107.
So basically there's a
course that you take through the FAA. Several people offer it. But what you do is it's a ton of classroom time that you spend in front of a computer. Once you think you're able to pass a test, then you do have to go schedule it wherever you're at, closest place, and go take the test. It is $175. But it is a lot of man hours to sit through that class. Anybody can get on and look up any of those courses.
And just through our regular operations budget, if for a positive, for a pass, we then reimburse that test fee. But they have to show that they've positively passed. We're not just gonna pay for somebody to take a test and fail. So once they show that, we do reimburse that as well.
I think there's a lot of benefit to it. I'm only concerned that we're talking about their cert pay and
Right,
trying to get that
right.
in this way,
And so that's why I want to say it's an incentive. You know, it's not a requirement. They do this on their own. They do this because they can use that 107 at work or not at work. And so it's, you know, one of our guys uses it, bought a drone, and he uses it for farming as well. So, I mean, you know, to me, it's somewhat of a small incentive to make to help retain those individuals and allow them to do something off duty as well as we benefit on duty. We have, you know, turnout times that are, you know, law enforcement was looking for a fugitive the other night in a cornfield. We were able to search the entire cornfield in less than an hour versus, you know, trying to get a dog out and track in the heat and things like that. So there is great benefit to that. And Jamie, I trust me, I hear you loud and clear when we talk about incentives and cert pays and limiting those and what we do. But this is a small number of individuals, and again, there's no requirement for this, nor will there be a requirement for this.
You do like thermal imaging with that?
Yes. I guess you can.
Infrared, thermal imaging.
I just think there's so many advantages to it. There's a lot. That's my only concern. Not that I'm against it. But I think there's a lot of good to it. So.
Anything else for Nate? Mark? Page 8.
Okay, we pretty much flatlined through the budget. The only drastic number that we were trying to get the bypass, the interchanges seem to be a priority. Everybody, except for the state of Indiana, is technically responsible for them. So therefore, we are trying to address the issue. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. We suspended everything on our capital purchase plan just so we could free up some revenue for the mowing equipment or some budget for the mowing equipment. So that's the only capital purchase you see. The
How's
others
that
are
going to
all.
hurt us next year?
Pardon?
What did we suspend that would maybe borderline?
Actually, I just pushed everything back a year, whatever it was.
Okay.
Because I have a 10-year spending plan.
Okay.
So I simply just took whatever was 23, went to 24, on the
Okay.
full on all the way up to 35.
I'm just wondering when it's going to hit us. So that's all.
It's just backed up what you just cross your fingers, use a little more baling wire, a little more duct tape, and hope that we last much more years. Then moving up to the 300 series, you'll see the repairs. That was based on the estimate from the equipment manufacturer. Up in the 200s, the big thing is the fuel. That is almost a double amount. You glance back over, and if you'll look in the first 6 months, what we had is used $27,000 of the 35. So you double it, and I'm hoping that the mowing expense will be covered by the amount that I have budgeted. And then up in the salary area, it's strictly in the part-time, and that's for the operators of the mowing equipment throughout the summer months. Everything else is pretty much they maintain flat.
Are we coming back for some additional appropriations in 2022 for fuel? October.
I'm going to try. I keep telling Amy, I'm going to figure out a way to make my budget.
I don't think
Don't hold your breath, Jamie. I might be back in December, but I'm trying to cover the additional fuel cost without having to have additional.
If you got any tips, let me know, because my budget's not working.
Well, as you noticed, I spent most of it in 6 months, so I have to keep the other 6 somehow.
Well, I don't know that anybody anticipated that increase. So.
Right. But I remain optimistic this time.
So we got that documented.
Anything else on page 8? Page 9. Ron?
Small decrease in our budget for this year, primarily because the current budget has money in it for the comp plan and the Unified Development Ordinance. That will all be paid for before the end of this year, so it won't carry forward into next year. We add a little bit of money for software and licensing because we, a year or so ago, purchased the building permit and other software package, and we have some maintenance costs to keep that current. And Jamie, no, we do not need any more money for fuel this year.
Any other questions for Ron? Okay. Page 11 is motor highway vehicle. Mark, anything in particular here, other than just the typical stuff?
On the MVH,
Yep.
salary increases or whatever they are, we slightly increased. The salt budget mainly because of the price increase anticipated from the state QPA. And we also took that fuel going up a little. I don't anticipate a need for it, but I thought I'd be cautious on the ones that got so far off on the other. We removed storm sewer repair item out of the budget because we planned on being able to utilize the storm water utility fees to take care of our storm water costs. So I didn't see a reason to leave that in there. That way we could use the MVH tools for MVH, not have to pay for storm water repairs. And then because of the equipment that was being purchased, when we proposed the mowing one time by the state contractor for $35,000, I believe that number on the budget also for the coming year.
Questions on page 11? Page 12. This is where we have the second 175 for the building. We proceed down a different path. That would just be unexpended funds. Question?
I guess I'm just asking, is it better to just not have the spent funds, or would it be better to encumber those to cover other costs, or I guess maybe if we're gonna go through, maybe it doesn't make sense to encumber. Okay.
We,
Talk yourself right out of it.
No, I did. I started thinking, never mind.
we have a contract with Veritas, who's the owner's rep, that is being paid for out of that line item this year. And I was gonna look to see, I don't know if we owe them, I don't think we owe them the end of their contract yet this year, but that money could be used to continue that process.
Okay.
Any other questions on the MVH?
The CCNG matching fund, 500,000. If we assume that you apply for the matching money, you get it, then $1 million, what's the list of projects that's going to be used on that?
They haven't been determined for the next round, which will be the first
Yes, has to be done before December.
But that money would be used on like street repairs, seals, stuff like that.
Based upon you guys driving on the streets, minus the ones that we worked on last year.
Well, we rate literally every block of every street in the city. The ones that have been worked on more recently logically rate higher, right?
Who knows that?
We look at the Pazer ratings and formulate an overlay plan at the same time. We look for opportunities with lower rated streets that might need a little bit more than just bare minimum. It was kind of what we did with some of Pirate Park, or not Pirate Park, but North Park. That was a part of a CCMG project where you have existing sidewalks. They are eligible to be replaced with CCMG money. You cannot build additional sidewalk with CCMG money. Things like that, we could replace curb with CCMG money. So can be opportunities where we can do more than just overlay a street. One of the things that's been very helpful for the city, we are able to upgrade curb ramps, which is a big ADA issue, and helps us to show progress on implementing our ADA transition plan.
We are a 50-50 community because we're more than 10,000 people, so we have to put up $1 million to get $1 million. The county is 80-20.
75-25. So they put up 333,000 to get their money.
But they're a county under 50,000 population, which is the cutoff for the county.
Other questions on that? Local road and street is pretty standard. Any questions on that?
We can spend whatever our revenue is.
MVH restricted has to be used on pavement, correct?
50% of what we receive, the state requires it must be used for infrastructure. Can't be used for salaries, can't be used for anything else, and it has to go towards the pavement.
Help remind me, what'd you say it cost to pave a mile of road? I know you told us this, and it's probably absorbently increased since.
I have no clue.
I was just trying to remember what you said.
It is.
I'll be honest with you, Jim, I have no idea.
In the past year, asphalt, which is liquid asphalt, has done what petroleum products have done. It's the way out.
Any other questions on MVH? Building demo? Ron, any comments there?
This is, we just budget money, not knowing what the future holds. The last house that we had demolished to the ground cost us $15,000. That involves the use of heavy equipment, which uses diesel fuel, so that process has not gotten any less expensive. And then the $5,000 is for just boarding up buildings or whatever. And typically that's for materials. We generally find labor within the city to do that work.
So the house that was tore down, that's the one on the fort. So that house should be protected. I mean, the house is gone there. How, do we get our money back?
We filed a lien,
Okay.
but it's a matter of perfecting the lien because now that there's a $15,000 lien on a vacant parcel, makes people less, plus taxes, makes people less anxious to purchase that.
Deal?
There's just looking for sale. Also, there's for sale sign.
Yeah.
That, I don't think she realizes she has a lien against the county for
taxes.
Greensburg doesn't either.
There's taxes in there on that.
Yeah, there's taxes in there.
Yes. But
And it would have to go through the whole process of the tax sale.
Go to the sheriff's sale first.
I actually would have thought they would have already been up for tax, for the sheriff's.
I think I missed like 3 consecutive payments.
It takes a long time.
It's the whole commission.
Basically, like a year and a half. I think they've got to miss 3 consecutive payments on the taxes before we go to that.
Or-
It might be different, but I think that's what we have.
And then it goes to the commissioner's sale, which is technically.
Any other questions on that? Fire contribution. Hazmat. Big changes there. Any questions? Okay, page 14, lit fire. It doesn't seem like any big changes.
No, we added a line item, actually, we added 2 line items. We added a cell phone and internet service. Currently, that was just being paid out of our general operation fund, and to keep a better line item on that, and to keep better funding and tracking of how much our cell phones are and how much our hotspots work, especially since we discontinued the cell phone stipend and got the fire inspector and myself department-issued phones. I wanted to keep a better eye on that as AT&T and Verizon both now have competing services. We can easily track what's actually cheaper and what works better. So we added that to the 200 series, and then we added a line item for professional services under the 300 series, and that is strictly for legal fees throughout the station project, as well as having a reimbursement contract with the fire department. We have to depend on legal counsel for that, as well as when we did fire protection ordinances, and we had no place to take that money out of. So we just wanted to add that line item in there so we have better accountability and better tracking for that.
I guess maybe just a question, if we're talking about legal fees for like ordinances and stuff like that, those usually come out of the council budget, right, for the legal fees for that?
Those are being billed to my department, so we've been paying them. I would gladly take them out of.
Strange man.
I'll gladly take them out of
Our
that.
respective budgets. If we know who it gets billed to.
The, on page 3, that's just the fee for the monthly meetings.
But I can put per Jamie. Are you sure?
It looks good right there.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's not enough their payroll deduction from Jamie to cover that.
Put it on your tab, huh?
Put it on my, yeah, it's pretty big.
Other questions on that?
I guess maybe, would there be better, should we include those and wrap those up into another, instead of each department paying for their own, that way it's a little more obvious what we're actually paying. Because I feel like if we put fire's paying here, police is paying here, Amy's paying here, and if the council's paying here, I mean, wouldn't it be better if we put those all in one budget, and then it's a lot clearer what we're actually paying for legal services and legal fees, and it's more comparable year over year, where I think it's a little easier to hide some of that this way. Maybe I don't know what you guys think. I just wonder if that would be easier, more transparent.
There are 2 differing schools of thought on this, and that was actually what Josh Tressler was talking about earlier. The county puts the health insurance cost for their number of employees in each department, right? So under the Board of Works, we have, for city council, we have insurance cost this much money. The way that they divide it up is the police department gets a line item for X many hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And so that way, each department knows how much that costs them. So by sending them and making them pay for the invoice, they realize that that call cost them this or this service. If you consolidate it all into one, and Amy just pays all the bills, then all of a sudden there's no review, I guess you could say, of the invoice because it's just all billed to one So anyways, I'm just saying those
No,
are
I
the two schools.
know what you're saying, I guess I would just,
Or another thought is if each department has a specific line item that says legal services, if that's the direction that you want to go, but then we at least are budgeting departmentally for that.
I mean, maybe that's something we can look at year over year, because right now, I think that stuff that's being hidden in there, we're not, I don't think we have a true understanding of exactly what we're paying in legal services, because I'm bearing some of it here, I'm bearing some of it here, and it's getting hidden in other line items, and so we don't, I just think it'd be, in my mind, and maybe we leave it where it's at, but we still have to track it somehow, that we can.
We, like this, each department, to have that,
Yeah.
instead of just one line item from the clerk.
We actually,
That way, we can keep track
Yeah, I do.
better.
But I'd like to see that report and kind of compare it.
Right.
I mean, we look at year over year, what are we paying?
we actually pay other professional services out of that account. We occasionally use some surveying services. So there's more than just legal fees in our professional services.
So Amy, I believe you asked me to make it professional services when I told you it was gonna be legal fees, is that correct? When we had that conversation, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know.
It was you and I mean,
I remember talking about it, I don't remember talking about what it was gonna be. I think I told you where it needs, as far as the series it needs to be
Okay.
in, but.
you know,
I think it's fine like it is, I guess I just, and maybe that's more me, I'd just like to see better.
well, that's why we
what we're
broke,
paying in legal
that's why we broke it out of, instead of our operations account, because it does get buried, and I can't see, because they waxed and waned. I mean, this year's been a lot, but in the next year, it might not be anything. I'd rather budget it, not spend it, than try to find it later. I mean, I didn't realize how expensive it truly is until the invoices keep coming in, and it's just like, ooh, it's a lot of money.
Sorry, we move on.
Any other questions on page 14? 15, the police. Mike?
So where you saw that I only did a 2% increase in the city budget, we picked it up here in the lit part of the budget. The biggest increase you're going to see is in our wellness program, and like Nate talked about, that is just reimbursing the officers if they meet the criteria for the wellness program. So we put that in there, and I think we have 11 officers that are in that program right now. The watch guard warranty was money that we were taking out of a different service, but that's a yearly recurring warranty that comes up. That covers all of our body cams, covers all of our car cams, and we're getting ready to replace some of the cameras inside the building in our interview rooms with this same company. So that would cover, trying to keep it all in one system to
Can we
do
go
that.
back a second?
Yeah.
Chief, on the wellness program,
Yes.
I know, like the fire department has like a rating scale, right? And if you're at and Chief, please correct me if I say this wrong, but if like you're at 1, you basically have an action plan, you need to improve, be better. And then if it only pays if you're at a 5 or 6 or something like that, right? So,
Correct.
I guess I'm trying to understand, we have 11 people in this, I know it's rated a little differently, but so are we saying only 11 passed, or?
So
I'm just asking.
that money is there if all 11 pass, that's what it would take to pay them.
So what happens to the others that don't pass?
What others?
So,
You have to be in the wellness program to receive that. So,
okay, so we're not requiring that they did it?
no,
Okay.
no, that's something above and beyond. Assistant Chief Meyer can correct me if I say anything wrong, he's in charge of the program. But they are required a mental health check during the year, they're required a medical health check during the year, they're required 2 quarters to meet physical workout standards, and then they're required to pass a yearly physical fitness agility test as well.
And I think,
It's quite a bit different.
Right, and they're required to pass it at a higher standard than what others that don't want to be in the program are.
and I think we also, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we also budgeted because we also reimbursed the fee for the mental health visit.
Yeah.
And so that number reflects the mental health visit that we would pay out of pocket as a department, plus the incentive that goes to the actual individual at the end of the year.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I did skip over the farms portion. We did do a slight increase there just because there's a slight increase in anything farm related right now. So,
Ammo?
I was able to bring the amount that we're gonna try to purchase cars for down, based on what we're seeing, with the Dodge is the only one that's come out with a, state bid yet, and then we're waiting on the Ford one to come out. The watch guard camera, that is the replacement, of some of the cameras within the building that are breaking and broken. And then the 12.5 is rifle replacement for our TRT members. Those rifles are 10 years, and I couldn't tell you how many thousands of rounds, a lot. And we looked at refit versus replacement, and the cost to replace versus refit by the factory was negligible. This also gives us, it takes us out of the rifles that have 3-round burst, puts us into single semi-automatic rifles.
You mentioned, sorry, I interrupted, the watch guard cameras.
Yes.
So we have cameras that are out now?
Yes.
So how do we, I mean, I just hate to wait to budget till next year to fix that. Can we figure out maybe what the cost to fix those?
We have a workaround for it right now
Okay.
that's working. We're utilizing body cameras for now. This would just give us the ability to replace and make it that all-encompassing program.
I didn't.
I mean, if you want to give me money for it, sure.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, some of those things, obviously with issues we've had in the past,
Yeah.
we don't want to have cameras out. We need to make sure that they're working, especially.
It's only in the interview rooms, so it's only when we're bringing people in to do interviews, so they know when that's happening, so they can make sure that they have a camera ready for that.
Okay.
And then just radios and laptops there.
Any other questions for Mike? Page 16 is trash.
What we've adopted for the raise is included in the salaries. Tipping fees, we've not received notification, price increase, and that's what matters in the budget, so that is it.
Question on that? Law enforcement training.
Oh, sorry, sorry. On the tipping fees, how are we doing covering our expenses with what we're collecting now?
I tried to look today. I think we're a little behind on our receipts from the wastewater. I only see 6 of them through September.
And maybe we don't have to draw it out tonight, but if we.
I will get back when I have an answer, but I was going to do that this afternoon, and like I said, I only found where there was 6 reported deposits through 9/1 on my view. Pardon?
I will look into that
But is that not correct?
off the top of my head.
Oh, I thought maybe you wrote on.
Okay, any other questions on that? Training for law enforcement?
So that's basically just stays where it's at. If you look at the expenditures, you will see it's way over. We have another fund that we use to help supplement that. It's an income fund that we used to get when we did background checks for handguns, but there are other amounts that go in there when we do checks on VIN checks and stuff like that goes into that. I don't see a need for an increase this year.
Okay, questions? Page 17. Honda Fire. specific?
No, it kind of just mimics, you know, what we did. We took out the, incentive pay. We did roll that into our hot work extra pay. They are doing a lot of work on there, which requires us to have additional coverage there above and beyond the contracted amount. And then that gets paid out at $40 and $50 an hour respectively, whether or not they give us time or not. That's also being billed, so Amy and I, Betsy, have tried to make a valid attempt of getting that money back and then putting it back into that, making sure it goes back into that Honda account. So it doesn't show much as, it doesn't show as a greatest deficit. No other changes there were made. There was money last year for the aerial truck. It was not put in this year, and I think Jerry's got the kind of the plan for how to finance that when we get to Cume.
The funds that we were gonna pay this year, are we gonna encumber those for next year then?
That is the hope and the goal of Jerry's plan to do that, yes.
They go to Q5.
Yes, you'll see it, in
Moving it out of one, putting it in another.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it for Honda.
The budgeted funds from that fund in 2022 will be transferred by the end of the year to Cume Fire. And then Cume Fire will pay for the first half of the truck in 2023. And then Cume Fire will pick up the rest in 2024.
What's the lead time?
The lead time on delivery, 14 months.
The bond stuff is the bond general, that's the payments. Cume Fire's next. Then there you see the first half of the payment for Rural Fire. Any other questions on that? If not, okay. CCD, Cume Cap Development. We talked about the Park Road non-reverting fund, you can see that there. And then the other ones, the gateway improvement projects that I included in your memo. Any questions on those?
The Gateway project, I mean, 250,000.
Yeah, so as I explained, we had the signs that dot the entries to the community. The one on South 421 blew over. It just, I mean, it was rotted off. They're pretty old. I think do they date to Gary Bailey's time?
Pre-me, so I can't tell you. We're down to only the one green one, I believe, that's the one that fell apart on 421. The white one is very urbanized, white plastic.
And they're falling apart. If you look at like the treads all falling off, they're all broken. It's time to update those. So that's what that line item is.
How many of those are we talking?
I think there are 6.
Just looking at the number, if I take, I don't know if there's other things in there, maybe it's more than just 6 signs.
I don't think that, based on some of the other projects, I don't think that number is factored in this thing. Of course, I mean, it's all bid out and all that, obviously. Yeah. questions?
Now, that fund right now is at a deficit of $238,000. That's what that was at.
Yes. But that was the conversation we had earlier about the Park Road non-reverting fund. We're putting that money into that savings out of that fund.
Well, I guess what I'm just thinking out loud while I'm going through some of this stuff. I mean, maybe we don't look to do all of it at once for if we're looking at like gateways or signs and stuff like that. Maybe we prioritize 2 a year or something if we've got to do 6. I mean, we phase it in. I don't know. Instead of doing it all at once. And then we could reduce that amount significantly, and then we could also reduce the deficit in that. We're not going to cover it all, but we can.
I think we can probably get a better product for a better price if we do volume of them. Yes, we will pay more, but instead of doing 1 or 2 off, we'll still, in the 2020 year, or 2023.
I guess that we've got a lot of projects that we're saying, hey, let's do these things, and they're nice, they're great additions to our community, and just my concern is that we can't do everything, right? We've got, and just because we have cash reserves that we can dig into to pay for this or to pay for that, I mean, at some point in time, we're gonna have an emergency, and we're gonna need that money in when we spend it on these projects, and I just, that's my concern on this is, you know, I think in some of these cases, they're nice things. I'm not saying they won't beautify the community, they won't make the community look better. I just.
From a sign standpoint, though, I mean, you do 2 now or 2 later, I mean, a lot of the costs for signage is setup fee. If they only have to set up once, you're gonna save money. I mean, you're gonna do signage on that scale. It's better to just do it all at once. You could end up paying more than one.
We did the last round all at the same time as well, right? And now they're all falling apart at the same time.
Which again goes to maybe we face it, right? So they don't kill us the next time we have to do this, right? Yeah. I think there's a lot of good ideas. What I'm saying, I think we're just trying to do, we're trying to do all kinds of things all at the same time, and maybe it's better to face it like that. My opinion.
I'd like to tackle the project at one time, but you will help.
I agree.
Go
Maybe
check
there's
the
something
face
else.
of it.
We did great. Daryl didn't get voting last time. Bladder wasn't strong. I know.
No, I'd say no, like I said, don't get hit so hard at once.
Okay.
Maybe we can knock that
Can we
down
do,
to-
can we do half? Jerry, can you? Got that. Any other questions on that?
So what are you gonna do?
Cut in half the community gateway improvements. Because that's what Daryl wanted.
Any other questions on page 18? Page 19 is the fire pension. Brian, you're the pension secretary, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Brian on the pension?
Rick's like, keep paying it.
You don't pay mine.
We don't?
No, the state gets to pay Rick's.
I'm staying, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, you're
I'd rather-
in the good program.
Any questions?
That's
By Dave, you ready? Are you guys good on 19 fire pension?
Yeah.
Okay, police pension? Any questions on that? Page 21 is lit ed. The only thing that we'll remove this salary line as needed. We should be able to make it in the other one. The changes, the Central Street Connector project has been something that the county has been working on since 2017. It's from the bridge in front of the Learning Center, between the Learning Center and the junior high, all the way to the high school, to the multi-use path.
Up the east side of high school. It's all new sidewalks up the north side of Broadway, and then continues out Central. The north side of Central, and continues out until you get to the walking path up the east side of high school.
That was 80-20 money
80/20 federal money.
that the city applied for jointly with the county back then, and so now it's time to pay for that contract, assuming that they actually let it in early 2023.
Mark, is that replacing that bridge?
County's doing
The
that.
county's doing the bridge because they collect bridge fees from everybody throughout. the
I'm just asking because we're not allowed to drive over that bridge. It's our trucks are too heavy for it.
As long as the school buses aren't even allowed to drive over. That's why the school buses all pick up off of it. They eliminate all bus traffic.
Any other questions on that change or any of those? TIF has submitted their budget request there for 1.1. Veterans Way projects wrapping up, so no more funds on yours, I guess.
They're in the process.
Any other questions on 20, or page 21? 22 is the riverboat. We typically budget that in. That is from the revenue.
What do we have, what we're bringing in?
We bring it to the revenues, right? It's column 68,000 is the revenue.
Okay.
Any questions on that? It's pretty standard. Then the next couple sections are the airport's submitted budget. Any questions on the airport? Last two pages. Takes us to the end. Anything we wish to readdress or discuss further? Carol?
Good.
Violet? Kevin? Rick? Dave?
Just kind of going through this,
Did I miss anything that we had talked about beforehand? We'll wait on you for the motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made by James, second by Vida. All those, right, Vida? Vida, did you second that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.